Hi, thank you for joining us again at Grace Through Generations. Can I share something with you? My story isn't perfect. There's been joy, heartbreak, and a lot of searching. But through it all, God never let go of me. Today I want to talk to you about forgiveness. Are you holding on to things you cannot let go of? I'd like to share with you what I learned about forgiveness at church summer camp when I was younger, and how the image of a balloon always helps me to be able to forgive. I pray it encourages you wherever you are in your walk. Forgiveness seems like such an easy word to say, but the actual act of forgiveness can sometimes be difficult. And if you're a parent out there, please remember even kids sometimes struggle with this too. And in fact, that's where my example and story takes place. Such an impactful moment in my life that was able to change me forever. One of the big stories in my life, and actually it kind of carried over into adulthood too, is the fact that my parents were divorced. My biological dad was out of the picture mostly about the age of 4, and from that time it was a hit and a miss when we would see him. We would go a long time and not see him, hear from him anything at all, and then suddenly he would appear and he would be there, and we just couldn't understand, my sister and I, why he was not there all of the time. It was a come and go kind of thing. Now, before I get too far, I want to acknowledge that we did have a dad in our lives. He was absolutely amazing, took on my sister and I as if we were his own, and we even had another sister from my mom's marriage, and he was amazing and supportive and there for cheering. And so I want to acknowledge there was some amazing influence in the life, but the focus comes to my biological dad not being around. You see, about the time I was getting ready to go to camp, my dad had made a comment to me. We'd just spent a summer with him, and he kept going on and on how he could not wait to start a family and have kids that would be there all of the time. And that was really hurtful to hear from my dad. And I remember telling him, but we are here. You have kids already. And of course, as a child, I didn't really understand where he was coming from with that, and he didn't really elaborate on it either. It was such a struggle for me because he really was out trying to start this new life. He wasn't around, wasn't always available to talk to us, and my mom tried so hard to keep us focused on what we did have and where we were at and the support we had, but as a kid it can still hurt. For a moment, I want you to know that children of divorce really do go through a lot of pain and a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and it can hit years and years later. If you're an adult and grew up in the situation where you had divorced parents, it could probably be difficult to have that compassion or understanding of what your children are going through. Just know that hurt can carry for a long time, and often some of the pains may not be released until later in life. But that's okay. So now we get to what I want to share with you today. During this time, I was really upset, and the thing that bothered me a lot was the fact that my biological dad just wasn't there. Didn't seem to care enough to be there in our lives. And I remember going to camp, and camp itself was such an amazing experience, and I can't wait to talk about some of those things in the future. But the big takeaway is we had a counselor there. I cannot remember his name. I can still see his face. And I remember he was from Alabama because some of the kids there loved to sing that Sweet Home Alabama song and constantly, and they laughed about that. But neither here nor there. The lesson that he talked about in one of our classes was forgiveness. And he asked all of us to grab a balloon and get a slip of paper. And on that paper, we were to write down something that we had not forgiven someone for. We got to choose what that was. and write down what that item was that we wished we could forgive. For me, on my slip of paper, it was forgiveness to my dad for not being there, not giving the support that we had hoped to for my sister and I to spend so much time without him around. And again, our stepdad, who we look to as our dad, was absolutely amazing, so please don't take that wrong. But that hurt was still there for that biological dad to not be around, and that pain of not having that support that you would think you would have. So I write down my dad on that slip of paper, and I roll it up and put it in the balloon. And he tells us to blow up the balloons and tie it off, which we all did. And I looked around, and there was a room full of these balloons, just these big old balloons everyone is holding. He went on to give a lesson about forgiveness and how we should forgive, and he's absolutely right. I don't remember the verses he used, but some of the ones that stand out to me with forgiveness, such as Matthew 6:14-15. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive you your sins. I think it's important to know that forgiveness is absolutely key, and there are many, many Bible verses about it. And so given that reference, and we learned the lesson, he told us at the end of that lesson that if you're able to forgive and let that go, then you can pop that balloon. And not everybody popped their balloon the first night. I sure did not. I had a lot of maturing and growing to do. But it was amazing when I think back now, those that were able to walk up, pop their balloon, and throw it away. Then there were some of us that just didn't quite let go till the end, or even after camp. And to imagine that was just one item, or look at it as one balloon. Can you imagine having so many things that you're unable to forgive for, that you have more balloons than you can hold? To the point that you would be dragging balloons, or balloons would be floating all around your head, and now you can't see. Your hands are full. You cannot appreciate what you have in front of you. What a visual to have in your mind, to imagine that balloon, and even at that age, to sit there and look at something in my hand. Forgiveness can be such a difficult thing to do. There's so many lessons over the years that I've heard from preachers and teachers and Sunday school leaders, just to know that forgiveness is something that you have to do and come to that. When you hold on to things and harbor anger and frustration and resentment, that you're carrying that, not the person you're mad at. You see, the whole time I was upset with my dad, we weren't a thought. And even as an adult, it's amazing to sit there and think about that and go, wow, I was really upset, and lost some times and thought moments in my life where I just couldn't let something go. And at the end of the day, I was only hurting myself. I was holding myself back. My dad wasn't affected by me being upset or being unable to forgive. It wasn't a thought. But I'm carrying that balloon. And not only am I carrying that balloon, I'm carrying other balloons of unforgiveness, such as maybe being frustrated with my sister, or mad that my mom might have embarrassed me in front of friends. And maybe I was also carrying balloons from something happening at school, or a friend saying something to hurt my feelings. The point is, the more that I list things, the more that you sit there and think about the things that you're holding on to, those balloons are getting bigger and bigger and more and more. And the more you sit there and think about those things and hold them, well, now you can't see in front of you. That's why forgiveness is so important, because you're not focusing on the right things. Now, I'm not saying you run back to situations and you just allow yourself to be in uncomfortable or dangerous situations. What I'm saying is this act is something that you do for yourself to release your thoughts and those feelings and put them at the foot of the cross, to give them all to God and say, God, work through me in these feelings that I have right now. For you to say that I may still have emotions as I go, but I'm giving this to you. I want you to take care of it. I want you to handle this. I want to release those feelings of unforgiveness that I have, those things that are taking my focus from you, and I want to put my eyes on you. And in that time, instead of holding on to those hurtful thoughts and mad thoughts and being unable to forgive, then in turn being able to forgive and focus on the things that God does have for me. How can I serve him? How can I turn to him and do better? And I say that because all of that time you sit there with negative thoughts and it's bringing you down, you can shift your focus to the things that can bring you happiness, that can give you that fulfillment, to give you a better focus on life. Let go of those balloons, pop them, take them from your vision. You know, something to think about, and it's happened in life too. If you have all of this unforgiveness just brewing inside of you and all of these balloons in your face, you're going to miss these amazing opportunities that God has right before you. You're going to miss the opportunities of sharing the word, noticing a friend that may need a hand, spending time reading your Bible to learn more about God. I mean, it's countless and endless. The things that you don't even see in front of you that you can be grateful for, excited for, that God has given you. There's so many things that God has to offer us, and holding ourselves back with that unforgiveness, it sincerely, and I stress it again, really just holds you back. You're not hurting or punishing the person that has done you wrong or made you feel that way. You're hurting yourself, and you're hurting your own relationship. Let go of those things and give them to God. Turn to him and ask for that direction to remove those feelings from your heart. Now, I'm not saying it's overly easy and it just happens overnight and that you must immediately forgive and move on, although ideally we should. What I'm telling you is to work through those thoughts and don't let them hold you. Think of all of those unforgivenesses as balloons. So, back to camp. With that, I did have to work through it. And I remember that entire week, night after night, I thought. And I prayed about it. And I watched others around me. Each night, a few more would pop balloons, and a few more, and a few more. And I was still sitting there holding it. I actually, and I don't even know if I ever told my mom, used the payphone, to date my age right there, but I used a payphone at camp to try to call my dad. I wanted to tell him that I forgave him. And, of course, he did not answer the phone, and I did not leave a message. But that was a small glimpse of reality in that moment that let me realize, you know what? He doesn't even know I'm upset. He didn't answer the phone. Why am I holding on to something that I sincerely should let go of? I did have to work through those emotions, and actually it was after camp was over. I sent an email to the leader and asked him to please pop my balloon for me, but through the years I never ever forgot that. And even at this time in life, there are so many situations where I will get upset or I will hold on to thoughts, and when I sit there and think about it, that's a balloon in a hand, and here comes another one, and then next thing you know, I cannot see in front of me. I have to work through those and pop those balloons and keep it at the forefront of my mind, not to hold any more in my hands, because I don't have room for that. And in its place, I try to hold things such as volunteering at the church and serving the Lord and spending time with my family and spending time in the Word, studying and reading, and allow those things to consume my vision instead of things that sometimes I have no control over, and definitely the people that I'm upset with are not affected by these situations. You know, another verse that comes to mind, 2 Corinthians 2:10 through 11. Now whom you forgive anything, I also forgive. For if indeed I have forgiven anything, I have forgiven that one for your sakes in the presence of Christ, lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. The beautiful thing about that verse is that getting that forgiveness in the presence of God, and the purpose behind that forgiveness is to prevent Satan from taking advantage of a situation. When you hold on to and harbor those feelings and thoughts, you're allowing evil and stress and anger and madness into your life, and it doesn't need to be there. We want to close those doors to those situations so that our eyes and hearts are fully on our Lord. And by offering that forgiveness, we are releasing from harboring those things so that we can go forward. You know, with my dad, it wasn't a one-time thing. In fact, it actually wasn't until he passed, and he passed earlier this year, that as an adult and now parent, I was able to look back at different situations and things on life, and had some discussions with my mom to understand a little bit better what I couldn't as a child. And I will say that thankfully, through the acts of forgiveness, I was able to understand those situations better, to come to full closure with things. And I'm so glad that I had been able to pop that balloon a long time ago, because can you imagine 20 plus years of a balloon just continuing to grow and grow and grow? Because when you're unable to forgive and you're holding that anger, it's not going to stay the same size. It's going to grow and fester over time if it's not addressed and looked at. And I'm just so thankful for that summer camp experience, to have that visual of a balloon right there in my hand. What else can I do? And you want to get rid of that if you can. You want to be able to set your eyes and hands where God needs you to have them. And forgiveness is just such an amazing act, and sometimes it can seem so simple, and it's not always. And I don't want you to walk away and think, oh gosh, well, Jessica says it's just as simple as that, and you let it go. And it really should be, of course, but us, the humans that we are, sometimes it's a process. But start that process of forgiveness. You can even be upset with yourself. Forgive yourself. Find a way to move forward. We don't want to hold these balloons. Please don't hold them. There's so many things that we have ahead of us that God has in store, and we've got to free those hands to do that. You know, even from a psychology perspective, when you forgive someone, you need to be able to forgive yourself as well. When someone has unforgiveness, sometimes that unforgiveness trickles down to, I let this happen, and why didn't I change this situation, and this person hurt me, but I'm also mad at myself. See, that's when you let the enemy come in and grow and put more balloons in your life and expand the ones that are already there for that visual perspective. And so forgiveness is that freeing of letting that go, breaking those bonds of negativity, those lies that you end up telling yourself for years and years. You want to be able to free yourself, allow you that focus. And of course, it's for your health. Holding on to things that are negative can weigh you down and add stress and anxiety and depression, and those are all things that we don't want in our lives. Most importantly, though, forgiveness helps you on your spiritual path. when you are able to let go of those lies and hurt and anger and things that separate you from God, it builds that walk back with Him closer. You want to be able to have that clear mind to see what God has for you and the direction that you want to go, and to help someone else along the way. Some final thoughts I want to leave you with today on my story of forgiveness is some reasons it's important is the Lord commands you to do it. You're to forgive others, especially because He's forgiven you and in order to forgive you. It would be wrong of us to sit there and say, I'm not going to forgive this person for this or that person for that act because it just hurt me. But sit there and think about how God feels when you've sinned or done things against Him, things that He's clearly said for you not to do. Can you imagine one day Him telling you, well, I can't forgive you because that just hurt me so bad what you did? And that's not what He does when you truly ask for that forgiveness. And so please keep that in mind. If He is able to forgive us of our thoughts and actions and the things we do, it's so important that you're able to let that go for others. Reflect what God has given you, that amazing grace that He's given you. I've said before, it affects your relationship with God, and we want to be able to walk closer with Him, and we want to turn to Him. And by offering that forgiveness, laying it at the feet of the cross and saying, God, take this on. Please help me work through this. Help me learn what lesson you had for me in this. And then how can I use my story of forgiveness to help someone out one day? And those opportunities will come, as well, to prevent that bitterness. You don't want to hurt your spiritual health. Sometimes Christians delay their growth and understanding with God because they can't let go of forgiveness. They want to spend too much time figuring out why, but from an angry perspective, instead of going, I don't like that this happened and there was so much that I have to learn from it, but let me start with forgiving and turning to God and asking Him to help me see the purpose behind it. For example, there is a wonderful, wonderful soul in my life now that what I went through with this situation and the things I had to forgive, I've been able to help somebody else. And so it may not always make sense at the time, but know God has a plan for everything. Release that burden from yourself. Give it to the Lord. He's done it for you. And so do that for others so that you can move forward in your purpose and what God has planned for you. I want to finish my thoughts on my dad with that forgiveness chapter to let you know that when he had passed this year, that realization and, of course, the remembrance of those balloons came up again. Often it's a matter of perspective, too. And when we let go of that anger and frustration, we're able to sometimes see the things we didn't before. I want to read a couple lines of a post I gave for my dad after he passed and share with you to show you that closure, that had I not turned to God and laid my anger and frustration at His feet and allowed that popped balloon, that even at my age now, I would have missed this opportunity of reflection and understanding. So here's what I wrote in part. As I grew older, I came to understand more about his life, his struggles, and his choices. It wasn't always easy to see, but in time I realized that in his own way, he loved me enough to keep his distance, to protect me from the pain he carried. That's a perspective you often only gain once you have children of your own to protect. Today I chose to remember the good that he gave me. I'm grateful for the handful of years that shaped me, and I hold on to the truth that no matter who he was or how difficult his path, God used him to create me. The best of what he had, he passed down, and for that I give thanks. Of course, that's not the only moment in my life where I had to find forgiveness, but it was definitely the most impactful. If you've listened this far, thank you for letting me share a piece of my heart with you. My prayer is that you'll see bits of your own story in mine and know that you're not walking alone. No matter where you are, on the mountaintop, in the valley, or somewhere in between, God sees you, He loves you, and He's not done with you yet. In the weeks ahead, we're going to talk more about going from lost to found, happiness from different perspectives, and all kinds of other amazing things my girls and I want to share with you. We will also be posting episodes every Monday and Thursday, and we hope you tune in. You can find us also at gracethroughgenerations.blogspot.com. We hope you come check it out. We've already posted a couple things on there. You can also find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all at Grace Through Generations. We'll be making posts to the blog every week and social media daily. If you have ideas or want to share your testimony, we hope to hear from you. You can reach us at gracethroughgenerations@gmail.com, and maybe your story will be featured next. Thank you so much for joining us, for spending time with us today. Please share your stories of forgiveness. And if there's things you're struggling with, turn to your local pastor, someone you trust in your church, to help you walk through those steps and work with God in order to move forward with your walk in faith and to pop those balloons that you're holding in front of you right now. Thank you again for joining, and I hope that you have a most blessed day.